Inside this room, all of my dreams become realities, and some of my realities become dreams.
What in the wide, wide world of sports is going on here? Alive! It's alive! It's alive!
You are listening to The Wilder Ride, getting wilder by the minute. Here are your hosts, Alan Sanders and Walt Murray.
Hey, welcome back everyone to The Wilder Ride, getting wilder by the minute, a podcast that celebrates the films of Gene Wilder 1 minute at a time. And for this minute, for this Thursday, we are diving into Blazing Saddles, minute number 24. Throw something on and stay in that position minute at a time. I'm your host, I'm Alan Sanders.
I am your co-host, Walt Murray.
And it's our pleasure to welcome back the guys from the Star Wars Minute, Pete and Alex. Pete and Alex, welcome back.
Hey, everyone.
Thanks for having us.
They're both on top of each other.
That's how we work.
That's why we're here.
Now, wait a minute. Cool, bunk beds. I get to be on top.
I'll apologize in advance for Alan.
I'm sorry. Anything that sounds like a 14-year-old would find funny, I suddenly find funny too. It's the way my brain works. He said on top.
I was going to say your brain works.
Oh, wait. Hey. Most of the time. Anyway, we're going to dive into this minute, and it does actually start off with the line, throw something on and stay in that position, and moves to Washington, Jefferson, Lincoln. And we kind of get most of the word Lincoln from Sheriff Bart. But we are actually in the governor's office where we last left, and we are going to continue on the conversation. So, obviously, Miss Stein is not, she's not in the right frame to be in public right now.
Right. And we know that that's her, right?
Well, we kind of heard her giggling, didn't we?
We did. I just wasn't sure if that was confirmed to be her. Could be anyone, right?
Well, that's true.
I guess I assumed it was her.
Maybe I am playing the Office Space game of jump to conclusions. I'm playing the game with on my mat.
Right.
Well, she is his secretary, so it makes sense that...
Maybe, you know what it is? I've got the script here, and there is a line that we don't hear her say, because right after Lepetomane is supposed to say, be with you in a minute, which is how we ended the last episode, we're supposed to hear a VO from behind the drapes of Miss Stein saying, what is it, Bill? And he's supposed to say, just a trifle, my dear. Then, throw a robe on, the floor is dirty. I'll be back in a minute.
That, to me, means we didn't want to pay. Like, did she have any lines yet, or is she just there kind of giggling and
oh no, she's had lines. She read the line from
Right.
the telegram from Rock Ridge requesting a new sheriff, and she is next minute, which you guys won't be here for, she does come through the curtain saying, Bill, like, it's getting lonely back here. But you guys don't see that right now, so you wouldn't know that.
No,
because you've only seen this movie up to minute 24.
Yeah, don't spoil anything.
not even up to.
The minute we're on.
He's
on,
watching
quick,
it
cramming.
second by second as we go through this.
Right.
Can we get
when
somebody
you
to
mention
monologue?
something, I'll watch that, and then I go back, and I'm like, oh, okay.
You know, one of my struggles with this movie is I've seen it so many times. I'm having a hard time remembering what have we talked about so far. Like, what has happened in the minutes previous? What's coming up? It's all kind of getting to be a mess.
Yeah, you're turning into BK on us.
I'm turning into something.
Yeah. Well, we do get the governor coming out finally at about 4 seconds into this. There's a great little visual and the sound effect of him zipping up his fly. So I think we've put all the contextual clues together. We realize some hanky-panky's been going on behind the curtain.
Yeah. No, well, maybe involving them, but not in them.
Not in them. Not in the ear. Not in the ear.
Not involving ears.
All right. There's a joke here. Well, there's kind of a joke. It's a play on words,
That's
but
true.
What? A joke in this movie?
I know this is such a serious film.
he comes around the corner of the desk and says,
Forgive me, I was just walking the parapet, taking a look around. What can I do for you?
oh, has anybody tried walking a parapet? Walked on,
Yeah.
but walking.
I think I've walked on a parapet.
Yeah, I've walked the parapet before.
Well, first of all, do you guys know what a parapet is?
Walking the parapet?
What's like a...
Yeah, isn't it like a little wall on that goes around a castle or something?
Yeah. If you're a fan of the Lord of the Rings or the Lord of the Rings minute during the battle in the Two Towers, where they're all lined up watching the horde of orc outside, and they're at Helm's Deep, and the dwarf can't see over the parapet, and the elf says, "Would you like me to get you a? Would you like me to describe it to you, or should I just get you a box?" And so it's that's the parapet. So the low defensive wall that you can see over. That usually is on the edge of a larger wall or some other form of protection for a fort or some other permanent fortification.
Yeah. So where do you think this parapet was that he was walking around? This doesn't seem like the kind of place where there'd be a parapet.
Well, I don't think there actually was one, right?
Yeah, it's almost like he's kind of grasping for a word, and parapet hits his gray matter, and that's what comes out.
Oh, I mean, obviously the word pet, and so he's just taking the pet. It was the parapet for a walk.
Yeah.
All right. Now, can I give you guys a Latin lesson for just a moment?
No. Okay, well.
You might like this.
Okay, well then.
So the parapet, the origin of the word parapet, if we go all the way back to the Italian, is parapetto. And para and pet is made up of two words. Para, the equivalent of the around or edge, but petto, meaning the chest or the breast. It comes from the Latin pectus.
Right, of course.
So maybe he was taking the parapet for a little stroll.
Okay.
There you go.
Very interesting.
Actually, I would argue he's taking a pair of pets for a stroll. I mean, I don't know how else to look at that joke besides it's a pair of pets. I was taking the parapet for a stroll.
Okay, so if that is a Latin joke, this will be the first time in history the words Latin and joke have ever been used side by side.
Wow, Latin joke.
Maybe.
That's,
unless we go and do Monty Python's Life of Brian and they conjugate the Latin properly when he's putting the stuff on the wall.
Oh.
Actually,
okay,
in
everybody's jumping in with their Latin
before
joke.
Life of Brian.
Yeah, in History of the World, ironically enough, someone makes a joke. They say, "Oh, sick transit Gloria." Because I didn't know Gloria was sick.
That's right.
Stupid.
I didn't know Gloria was sick. It's a Scooby-Doo moment. So, whatever the origin, I could not find where, definitively from someone either behind the scenes or somebody involved with the production could explain that joke fully. So the only thing I got was the play on the word pet, which be a parapet. But then when you look at the Latin, where pet also means chest or breast, and pair of versus para. So I thought that's got to be. I mean, we've been watching Mel Brooks movies enough. Even if he didn't think about it, maybe it was an unconscious thing because he's just that good.
I took it as just kind of like, walking the perimeter, essentially, like doing, I was just out, walking the parapet, like, I'm trying to think of another euphemism.
Like he's on point, on guard.
Yeah, kind of. If you know what I mean. Right.
Strolling the boulevard.
That would have been a lot easier than my work. I could have just left it as, he's just walking the perimeter.
I was taking my morning constitutional.
I just went and looked it up. Well, what the hell could this possibly mean? I'm waiting for the joke somewhere. Well, he was certainly walking the perimeter.
Well, as you can see, I'm really I feel like I'm underestimating Mel Brooks here because like I said, I just kind of thought he was grasping for a word and threw something out. But apparently, there's a little bit more to this than I had assumed.
Now, I do want to get back to you guys because we talked a couple minutes back about the tie-in between sort of the cross-eyed silliness of Governor Lepetomane here and Groucho Marx and Duck Soup.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Oh, well, I actually meant that scene that was happening back there with the paddles. That was the part that reminded me of Duck Soup.
Right. I didn't know since we kind of glossed over it very quickly at the very end of Last Minute when he pokes his head through the curtain. He still has sort of that semi-cross-eyed look for addressing these two guys.
I did want to bring up I wanted to highlight great cross-eyed performers. Like what other people are famous for doing cross eyes? I think Eugene Levy is a good cross-eyed actor, and a guy named Ben Turpin was probably the original. He was like a silent movie cross-eyed guy. That was like his whole gimmick. He had a big bushy mustache and crossed eyes. That was his. Back then, that was enough to have a career in movies. If you had a bushy mustache and crossed eyes. You guys know what I mean? Other famous crossed-eyed scenes?
Well, there is a list of people who have had to battle through having a mild version where sometimes they have to keep themselves in check and they may have to do a retake. They don't certainly make a career out of it, but people that have suffered from this mild, what's it called, strabismus of the eyes include Abraham Lincoln, Russell Crowe, Denzel Washington, also Ryan Gosling, Kristen Bell, and Kate Moss, as well as John F. Kennedy.
Wow. Some of those are attractive people, too. Maybe there's something to this crossed-eye stuff.
And then it does lead me into this, you never know with the internet, but I found an article, 46 celebrities who you probably never noticed have wonky eyes.
Wait, wonky is
Paris
the other movie.
Hilton counts as one of those.
That was last season.
Yep.
We mentioned a couple of these already. Let's see. Kate Moss and Ashley Simpson apparently has an eye that sometimes goes a little askew. Hugh Grant also, Demi Moore, and Steve Buscemi.
Oh, yeah.
Tends to have eyes that go a little wonky on you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So apparently a lot of people are able to deal with it in Hollywood, but sometimes they have to work very much on eye muscle work and eye exercises and the right angles that they're looking to make sure that they don't have that come across on screen.
Yeah. They think that'd be a big hurdle.
So there you go. There was my dive into cross-eyed.
Didn't Igor have a slight eye issue in Young Frankenstein?
Yes. Yeah. But his eyes weren't crossed. His eyes went like chameleon to either side of his head.
Yeah.
Like he couldn't see his nose.
Oh, yeah. Well, no, and there was so much we talked about in our Young Frankenstein coverage about his eyes. Damn his eyes.
Too late.
Too late.
Yeah, but Marty Feldman really made a career out of his eyes.
It's true.
Yeah.
Now I can't think of anybody else that had sort of not only because he had a condition that caused that, but I don't know anybody else that sort of had that bug-eyed, look that would go kind of to either side of his head. I think he owned that.
But I mean, also others like in The Jerk. Have you guys seen The Jerk? There was a big cross-eyed joke in that movie where Carl Reiner takes his glasses off and he has crossed eyes. That kind of a thing. Not necessarily real people with crossed eyes, but comedic crossed eyes.
No, I didn't. I didn't really think of anybody else. So you've just mentioned a couple more.
Well, you mentioned Steve Buscemi. He kind of has made a career out of being a little bit of an oddball, having that bit of an oddball look.
You think?
And his eyes, I never really thought about it, but his eyes are actually a big part of that distinctive look that he has. And they are a little bit kind of crossed, I guess, but he does have the...
Oh, he's got a little bit of that bug eye thing where it's a little bit rounder and wider, almost like they're pushing out of his head a little bit.
Yeah. And he's such a fantastic actor. I guess I've just never really thought about what it is about his look that is distinctive. But, yeah, kind of fits with him.
Well, he's always played kind of quirky characters for the most part. I think his most laid back character is in The Big Lebowski.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he hardly has any lines in that movie. He's just kind of sitting there and he's very easygoing and then eventually has the heart attack and dies. Poor Donnie.
He was out of his element.
He was. All right. Well, getting back to the minute, the governor comes around and talks about having walked the parapet. He's like, so what can I do for you? And what's wrong with his neck and shoulders?
That is a really weird thing. I don't know what to think about that. I don't know if there's anything in the script about that, but
no,
he is really overacting and it's almost distracting.
It is. He keeps adjusting his neck and his shirt and his collar and his shoulders. And it's like, what the heck are you doing? Anybody got any idea? Is this some neck exercise he's been working on?
I didn't notice it.
Well, I think, is he adjusting his jacket?
He's adjusting his jacket. He also, you hear his fly get zipped up too.
Well, that was on his way
It's
around
like
the desk.
really,
Right.
Yeah, as he comes
really
around the desk.
loudly sound effected in
Yeah,
Yeah.
Right.
in case you missed it.
you're right.
Right. It's the THX sound.
But he's shrugging his shoulders, his head's bobbing all around, his eyes are fixed on Hedley. But he has really got a over animated scene here.
Yeah, this whole for about 4 or 5 seconds, this constant, like he keeps adjusting his jacket when the jacket's already in place, and he keeps weaving his head in and out like he can't get comfortable for some reason, like he's got a stiff neck or something.
Hmm.
And I don't know why he's doing it. I mean, it's both funny and distracting at the same time, at least for me.
I never noticed it.
Do you notice it now?
I just took it as like after, maybe the jacket wasn't entirely comfortable. So after you put it on and he's just kind of, struggling around to get it comfortable, to get it on accurately, appropriately. I don't know.
Well, according to the script, he actually had a different line here than instead of "what can I do for you?" He was initially supposed to say, "Oh, hello, sorry to be tardy. I was just looking out the wall. What can I do for you, Hedley?"
Just looking out
Looking out the wall.
Looking out the wall.
Yes,
funny.
All right.
that's what the line was supposed to be.
I like that one too.
That would have been funny too.
Looking out the wall.
I was just- Yeah, I was looking out the wall. I don't know how many walls you look through, but he's found a way.
Okay.
It's good to be the king.
I'm a little bit at a loss here on that one. I mean, I'd like to look through the wall sometimes. And
I was looking over
Yeah.
the wall, past
And
the
I-
wall,
I
at the
just
wall.
Googled the term looking out the wall, and there's nothing. I mean, that's not a phrase of any, it's not like a commonly used phrase that's gone out of usage or anything.
Do you think I think this is a pretty big plot hole.
Yeah,
They should fix it.
definitely.
They should
They
fix it in
definitely
the
should.
special edition.
It would have explained so much more about the governor that we don't already know.
Yeah, man,
Indeed.
some sort of superpower. I guess I'll call their office, just leave a message, let them know that in the script there was a line that wasn't used that would have been a real problem. I know they'll appreciate my call.
Well,
Yeah.
much like all the calls we've left with the office of Mel Brooks, those will be very quickly returned
Mhm.
someday.
Yeah, well, and maybe that'll get maybe that'll get me the return call that I'm hoping for.
Yeah, we'll do an end around. We'll go through Warner Brothers. That'll work.
Maybe you'll get some papers filed on me, but
They'll appreciate the fact that we use some of the theme song. I'm sure their lawyers will love it.
yeah, we definitely need to keep drawing attention to ourselves.
I'm not going to be happy without a cease and desist. I want a Laurel and
Yeah,
Hardy
we're-
welcome from the attorneys
we're
at Warner
working on
Brothers. This is a bit of a rewrite, although it follows a script mostly. But the whole whistling and wow, and he turns his head and he goes, "Come here, can I talk to you?" Initially was supposed to be, "I'm pleased to meet," ooh, and then to Hedley, "Lamarr, have you gone berserk? This man's a nit," and they actually say the N-word. And then to Bart, he goes, "No offense, son." And then Lamarr says, "But have a seat, Sheriff, while we straighten this little matter out," basically indicating for Bart to take a rest. And then Lepetomane is supposed to say, "Lamarr, I have never questioned your judgment before, but haven't you taken a giant leap away from your good senses? You can't make a blank, no offense, the new sheriff of Rockridge." So the tone of the scene follows similarly. I like the way they chose to shoot this because we constantly have this reinforcement of doubles.
Right.
And Walt, you brought that up earlier this week when we had the Star Wars guys about the meeting adjourned and the other, "Oh, I'm sorry, you say that. What? Meeting is adjourned." "It is? No, you say that. What? Meeting is adjourned." They did that twice. We had the whole Rock Ridge, so this constant use of doubles on all the bad guys is reinforced here when the governor has this entire conversation initially with Bart thinking he's talking to Hedley, and then he He says, sorry, no offense, meant the other guy. And then has the exact same conversation twice.
Governor, as per your instructions, I'd like you to meet the new sheriff of Rock Ridge.
I'd be delighted. Wow! I've got to talk to you. Come here. Have you gone berserk? Can't you see that that man is a nit? Wrong person. Forgive me. No offense intended. Have you gone berserk? Can't you see that that man is a nit?
Yeah. Ring theory.
And this struck me as a very Marx Brothers moment. That like kind of, walk and talk with the kind of, and it's, the wrong person. And then like, I'm not sure necessarily they would back it up. Like Groucho wouldn't walk it back and talk to the other person per se, but but that style of comedy, I see it.
It's almost as if it's a combination of Groucho Marx and once again, the polished politician when he realizes, whoop, whoa, and he puts on the instant smile and apology, like, whoops, sorry, wrong person.
Right.
Like the typical politician.
Yeah.
Talking out of both sides of his mouth.
Right.
One thing I like about that line too, and maybe it's from a 2019, take on this too, is that not using that word makes this a funny line instead of a line that kind of is offensive.
Right.
Instead of using the N word, the fact that he cuts it off
the second time
is acknowledging the fact that, yeah. And then when he uses it the second time, I like that he cuts it off there too.
I agree. Because the script called for him to say it both times, but he chose to clip it both times. And I think it's not only more effective, it's actually funnier.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because when he does finally make eye contact with Sheriff Bart, I mean, he's so much taller than Mel Brooks. And you see he's got a very stoic, very serious looking down his nose at him. And he's like, whoop, wrong guy. Sorry. My mistake. I mean, Sheriff Bart is taking his part seriously.
Yeah.
Well, he is. And Hedley also knows that he's kind of treading some thin ice here, too. This really has to work because of his plan for the destruction of Rock Ridge. His little scheme here has really got to work. So he's the way that he's kind of carrying this through and working it out, he's having to be very precise with it.
Yeah.
That's insightful.
Well, thank you. I knew I'd blow your mind with something.
Oh, no, I meant the Star Wars guys going, yeah. This is actually pretty cool framing as well, considering Mel's obviously in the scene and directing. This little scene, when they come as close to camera as they are, they're in focus. We've got Sheriff Bart, we've got the governor, and then Lepetomane is directly between them and sort of observing, but he's obviously a soft focus with the depth of field. I actually really think, in terms of the framing, is really nice because you realize, like you said, Walt, Hedley's in the background, and it's a very fine line, this game he's playing. He's got to sell it to the governor to make him think that this is a good thing when he knows it's really a bad thing.
Is the governor really that hard to outwit?
Well, I mean, he does seem to recognize right away that this might be even a little bit beyond what he's comfortable with on first sight.
Yeah, I mean, they need some kind of what's the word? Like a tiny bit of plausibility.
With a fig leaf
behind it. So they can be like, oh, well, no, yeah, fig leaf, essentially. That we were like, no, we're trying to do this thing.
Right. I mean, he does say very specifically, have you gone berserk? That man is a nit, which is exactly how he delivers the line. I mean, he recognizes, even as goofy and cross-eyed and silly as he is, this is actually even beyond what he's comfortable with as the governor.
Right.
He can bring his mistress to a meeting, no problem. Cross-eyed and drunk at a meeting, no problem. Can't figure out what bill he's signing. He's okay taking the land from the Indians with a bunch of, paddle balls. But suddenly he's quite aware that this isn't going to work.
Is that a comment on racism that even though this guy's a total idiot, he can still recognize, because racism is so deeply ingrained that even the biggest idiot can recognize it? I don't know. That makes sense.
I don't know that that's not necessarily right or wrong, because I think in general, that's the theme they're dealing with here. And that you've got a bumbling governor who even he himself goes, they're never going to accept somebody who looks like that. I mean, it's like you said, it's sort of, that's the way they thought. That's the impression. So I don't even know if.
And and in agreement with that, he even says, I've really trusted your judgment in the past, but you have lost your mind here.
Hedley, I've always trusted your judgment before, but haven't you taken a giant leap away from your good senses?
And, so, yeah, I mean, he is as much of an idiot as he is, recognizes that this goes beyond the pale.
Well, and I don't know that he himself is a bad person. I think he says, wait a minute, they'll never go for it. It's in his mind, it's like, wait, he sees the red flag of putting somebody in that position in that day, in that time. So I don't think the governor necessarily has a problem. I think he has a problem in the sense of politically, this is going to be bad. Who would do this?
And it's sure not going to work. I mean, he knows that it's not going to work because they're not going to accept him as the sheriff. And
well, that's his initial impression, but this is where we get the great sell job by Harvey Korman. And he actually even, I don't want to say sweeps him off his feet, but he nearly, when he pulls him around to embrace him with one arm, Mel Brooks leans back and it's almost like a mini dip in some kind of a dance. And you realize Harvey is taking the lead now. Do you notice that?
No, well, that's good. That's subtle.
Yeah, because it does become almost like a dance. I mean, he's leaning back and I mean, it's not like he's going to kiss him or something, but it's almost like a dip in the middle of a dance. And then he starts to escort him as he continues like selling him on this idea of how, look, you're going to be the first guy to do this. Do you know how great that's going to be? And he convinces the governor with his rhetoric.
Please, don't fly off the handle, sir. I am about to make you an historic figure. Maybe even get you a cabinet post.
A cabinet post?
Yes.
Did you say that?
I said that.
Wonderful.
Yes, the first man ever to appoint a black sheriff. Just think, sir. Washington, Jefferson, Lincoln.
It's like a seduction scene.
A little bit.
And he really knows how to play him. Hedley knows exactly how to play the governor. He knows exactly how to appeal to him in a way that he can't resist.
Yeah, because he starts dangling those carrots, and a lot of politicians like this. I mean, the further up you go, you want more power. You want to be in charge of the important committee. You want to be in charge of, you want to be invited to be a cabinet member. You want to be given the ambassadorship. So here comes Hedley saying, look, you could even get a cabinet post out of this. And suddenly that's all the governor thinks about, a cabinet post. Like, woo, I didn't think about that. Wow. He's suddenly seeing the carrots dangling in front of him.
Well, and then he says, like, Washington, Jefferson.
What cabinet post do you think he'd be well suited for?
I don't
All
know.
this carrot talk makes me think it's got to be agriculture.
Well, this definitely has a Bugs Bunny feel, so I mean, why not?
Yeah.
What's up, Doc? Now, did you guys notice there's a reverse sort of, I talked about how there was the framing of Sheriff Bart and the governor up in the foreground with Hedley Lamarr in the background. When they make the swap, he's like, sorry, my mistake. And he brings Hedley forward. Sheriff Bart now immediately is in the other position, but instead of staring and watching, did you notice he makes himself at home by grabbing a cigar right out of the governor's cigar box, grabbing a light, and then kicking back and relaxing while these two guys are talking?
Well, because worst comes to worst, he'll just be back exactly where he was, when this whole thing started. So,
But I think it's a very subtle thing, but it immediately he puts himself in the governor's chair with a cigar, feet propped up, as if ultimately he actually is the one in charge here. And I love it visually from a filmmaking perspective, because while Hedley's trying his best to sell the governor, we realize the real hero is already settled into the leadership role.
Yeah, I mean, it's what's the thing with the most dangerous man has nothing to lose or something like that. So he was, literally, about to be hanged. And so it's like, well, now, all right, everything else, like, why bother kind of trying to kind of not fit in, but, why play by the rules, essentially?
Right.
Yeah, it lends itself to exactly what we see here, that devil-may-care attitude.
Although that might be what got him there in the first place, so who knows?
Yeah, that's true. Well, that's a good question. Would Hedley have taken any black person who was about to be hanged, or did he have Bart in mind particularly?
I don't think he had Bart particularly. I think
he just grabbed the first person.
Yeah, it was coincidence. He walked out and went, "Oh, that's right. That's the guy that I said I would hang, but that's the perfect person to put in this position."
Purely happenstance. Right place, right time.
Yeah, so in this world, it just was a kind of a perfect storm for Bart, and ended up being his undoing for Hedley.
Well, yeah. I mean, if this wasn't a comedy, Bart would be going from the frying pan into the fire.
Right.
But in this case, we get to see that he is somewhat that character that, later we're going to see iterations of like the Eddie Murphys and stuff play, where they can outwit everybody because they are just a little bit sharper and a little bit slyer than everybody else.
Did you say in the script that Hedley told him to take a seat?
Yes.
And that's not in this scene in the movie.
No, they don't say that line. Lamarr actually says to him, right here, he's like, "Have a seat, Sheriff, while we straighten this little matter out."
So it really does kind of change the texture of Bart in this scene, because if he had said, "Take a seat," then
he's taking orders.
Yeah, then he's kind of taking orders. He's taking a little liberty by putting his feet up on the desk. But I'm trying to think if I've been in a governor's office. I've been in the White House, and you really, it is, it would be a big no-no to go in and put your feet up on the desk at the White House. But I would also feel the same way in a governor's office, because it's a very stiff, respectable, unless you are the
governor.
I don't know that putting your feet on the governor's desk is cool or not, but because
I have to think Lyndon Johnson put his feet up on his desk.
He probably did. And I'd say, George W. Bush probably did.
I think it's a big difference if you're a guest versus the person. Like, if I'm the president of the United States, I'm probably going to kick my feet up on the desk at least once.
I don't know. As casual as I am, I don't know that I would.
As casual?
Well, yeah.
All right, I think we've gone completely off the rails. All right, well, Walt, before this episode airs, you're going to have to go out and dig into the archives of whitehouse.gov and try to find pictures of all the presidents of the 20th century and 21st and see who put their feet on the desk.
I'm just going to call a friend of mine who works for the Secret Service and ask him.
All right. Well, let's get back.
I'm not going to that much trouble.
Let's get back to the selling of the cabinet post. I do like, and I know that's definitely Abraham Lincoln in the foreground, the bust, but I can't tell if that's Jefferson or Washington.
I thought it was Washington.
That's what I thought. But then for a moment, I was like, is that maybe Jefferson? But it does make more sense. It's the two presidents that at this time in 1974, we did have still a Washington Day and Lincoln's Day as two separate days rather than President's Day combined.
Yeah, in 1874, Grant was president, and that's definitely not him.
No, these are definitely two of the presidents that usually are considered part of the President's Day celebration now. I don't know you guys age-wise, but I know when I grew up in the 70s going to school, I mean, there were two separate days. We celebrated Washington's birthday, and then 2 weeks later, by happenstance, it was Lincoln's birthday. So always we celebrated those as two separate holidays.
Yeah.
And it was recently combined as President's Day now.
Yeah, because they had to make room for MLK Day.
Right. So I do think then that, I mean, I just wanted to ask you, get your thoughts, because I wasn't sure, because they do mention Jefferson in the speech, but we do have generally, I guess these two guys are considered, two of the more important figures in American history, Washington and Lincoln here. And I do like that we do have Lincoln prominent in this, given sort of the tie-in with the guy who signed the Emancipation Proclamation.
I wonder when they started selling busts of Lincoln. What year is this? 1874?
1874, yep.
1874. They probably got into that probably happened pretty quick. People trying to cash in on the Lincoln mania that swept the country.
Yeah. It would have been less than 10 years that he'd been assassinated.
Well, was way far afield, but there's a street near me, which is Lincoln Place, I think, which was used to be after one avenue, it just changes to a different street name, and it used to all be that street name. And then there were some grisly murders that happened, and the street was just in the news for this series of murder. Things kept coming up. And so that's all people associated with. So the real estate prices went down. And so then they renamed most of the block because this was kind of just at the in the second half of the 1800s, I guess. So it was they were like, oh, like we're going to rename it in honor of our fallen president. But really, it was like people think that people kill here. So it was a pretty quick.
We are now naming this Manson Boulevard.
Yeah.
It wasn't the Dr. Gillespie killings, was it?
No, that's something separate.
That's from earlier in this movie.
All right. While Hedley is wooing and, as you said, seducing the governor with all these baubles and putting in front of his mind about being in a cabinet, and then he actually says, "Did you say that?" Yes. He goes, "Wow." Like he's really impressed that his attorney general says to the governor, "You could get a cabinet post." And he's really buying into it. And then they start talking about these famous people that have done all these wonderful things. And it does end with Sheriff Bart throwing in Link. And we know he's saying Lincoln, but that's where this minute's going to end. So I'm not trying to rush to the end, but that's sort of where we end up today. So Pete, before we kind of wrap things up for you guys, is there anything in your notes that we missed?
No, that's pretty much it.
Alex, what about you?
Looks like I'm good. All covered.
Excellent. And Walt, what about you? Anything we forgot to hit?
I think we covered it.
Excellent. Well, this is the last minute we have you guys on with us, so I definitely want to make sure you get, once again, a chance to plug where people can hear more about you guys. For folks who don't know much about the Movies by Minutes format, these guys actually sort of started the whole notion, and since then, we went from the Star Wars franchise to now a little over 100 and some in the moviesbyminutes.com website of people that are following in that same vein. So I guess my first question to you, and either one of you can grab this, but what does that feel like to know that you guys kind of ran with an idea and now you're seeing a bunch of people who are so enamored by it that they want to do the same thing?
I think at the last Movies by Minutes gathering that we did, somebody asked me, they're like, "Do you ever feel like you started a cult?" And I was like, well, kind of, but it's a...
How dare you question
It's
me.
a good one. And then I was like, take him to be reprocessed.
There's just not to question.
We'll show him. Now he's doing Geely Minute.
But what else did... Okay, and you just let it sit there. It's like...
I'm just thinking of all the crappy movies that person could be subject to doing now.
But it's got to be a little surreal.
Oh, completely.
I think we really felt it when we went to the last. It's easier to feel it when you go to the live events. Like we went every year. There's a Movie by Minutes kind of gathering. This past 18, it was in Denver, and seeing everyone in one room and stuff definitely makes it seem more like, wow, this is like a real thing that is at least to some degree affecting people. You know what I mean? Like people, this would not be going on if it wasn't for us. So it's a weird feeling. But when you're at home and stuff, it's all just kind of too abstract to really feel like a thing, at least to me.
Yeah.
Well, I got to say it's really, really cool because I got introduced to it by being asked to guest on The Thing Minute. A buddy of mine who is a sound guy in the movie business here in Atlanta, which has become a very big area to shoot movies. And I love The Thing, love John Carpenter. He remembered me talking about how much I loved it, so he brought me on. And my wife is not happy that he had introduced me to this world because I couldn't get out of my head. It was about 5 or 6 months later. I just finally said to Walt, my buddy, I was like, Walt, I've got this idea it's a harebrained idea, but I can't think of anybody dumber than you to come along with me on this. and
I can't imagine anybody whose wife would be happier to get rid of him for hours at a time
than you.
Come and join me.
But no, in all seriousness, it's such a cool idea. And so far to hear stories from people, I don't know if you get them, I'm sure you do, but I think one of the things that touched us coming up with the Wilder Ride is to hear people going through like cancer treatments or something that say, I look forward to your podcast every day because it makes me laugh and forget about what I'm going through. And it's weird to get those kind of messages from listeners, but at the same time, it's so amazingly satisfying to know that for a brief moment, you're bringing like laughter to somebody else.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we also, hear from a lot of parents who listen with their kids, and we're a part of their understanding of Star Wars now, which is a bizarre thing, like all the little, I mean, the reason why we do, the reason why we started this to begin with, we were always talking about all those little goofy extra Star Wars things that made up our Star Wars experience. It wasn't just watching the movie, it's all this other stuff. And now we're part of that other stuff for some kids. So it's bizarre.
Yeah, that's weird.
You have become that which you used to mock.
The very thing we swore to destroy.
We are now the minutia. Oh, dear God. Well, I think it's fantastic, and I would highly encourage, I know it is not only the first one, but it is referenced by so many of the podcasts out there and so many people I've talked to. It is on my subscribe list to go through and start binging. I did come in the middle, and I started with the Indiana Jones guys. I was doing The Thing, and next thing I know, I was listening to Rocky. I was like, but you got to go listen to Star Wars, and so it's queued up. So you guys are definitely going to be taking up a lot of my time after season 2 comes to an end. So folks, I would very much encourage you to check out these guys and check out some of the movies that you love. And there's so many different styles and approaches. And just by going to moviesbyminutes.com, and that's plural, moviesbyminutes.com, and you'll be able to pick the one that you like and start listening. So guys, we kind of talked about your minute, but I mean, one more plug. Where can people find you?
Well, you can you can go there, moviesbyminutes.com. We're there, but from there you can also get to starwarsminute.com. And individually, I'm at Pete the Retailer on most things, I think, or PeteTheRetailer.com has links to my things. Although I hardly ever update that.
Has links to your things, does it? Has links to your things, does it?
Out on the parapet.
On the parapet. In case you're out there walking them. Awesome. Alex, what about you? If somebody wants to engage maybe with you, Facebook, Twitter, or something besides the podcast, maybe they want to just ask you a question or just social media wise, how engaging or how do they engage with you?
Well, you can always go to my website, comicbookalex.com, and you'll find links to my Twitter and my Instagram and all that stuff there. But usually ARobTwit, that's my Twitter and Instagram name, and I'm on Facebook and all that stuff like that. But well, for Facebook, I in addition to being a I have a kind of professional page on Facebook that anyone can, anyone can like it, but I only accept friend requests from people who I know personally. So don't be mad if you send me your friend request and I ignore it. All right, unless you're a friend of mine.
Right. So yeah, it's that whole era where you've got a personal page for personal people and then the public page for what you do.
For public people.
Yeah, for public people.
Yeah.
For the underlings, the groundlings, those people down there that can't afford the real seats. So
right, exactly.
And Pete, I didn't get a chance to ask you, but if somebody wanted to engage with you, I'm assuming also on Twitter and Facebook?
Yeah, Pete the Retailer on Twitter. And I'm not really on Facebook these days, but usually messages get through to me through a complicated system.
Okay.
But
awesome.
Yeah, and also check out Alex and I went alphabetically through all the Beatles songs with 2 friends of ours a while back. So we had a show called Alphabetical, which is worth checking out. We finished that about 2 years ago.
Excellent. You guys have been at this for a little while, this whole podcasting thing.
A bit, like 5-6 years now. So
that's awesome.
Well, 3 or 4 seasons.
You just hire a few more droids, you might be able to get out of here. Walt, somebody wants to engage with us. Maybe they want to learn a little bit more about who we are, or maybe they want to forget who we are. I don't know. But how do they engage with us?
Yeah, forget us, maybe important. Probably the best way to get to know us a little bit and engage with some of our other listeners is on Facebook, facebook.com/The Wilder Ride. From there, you'll see a button to hit and then some questions to answer, and you can join our listeners group. And last I checked, we were close to 600 folks who have joined our group, and some of those, I think, just kind of read what's out there. Some of them are engaged, and there's a lot of good content that folks are adding. So we'd appreciate that. The other thing that you can do to help us out, and it would be a big help, is to go to patreon.com/The Wilder Ride. There are some ways that you can help us out financially, even $1 a month would be great. And then at the $10 level, you can get some of our bonus content of Christmas Vacation and Poltergeist, which we covered towards the end of 2018. So those are two great ways to engage with us. And of course, you can find Alan and I both on Twitter and Facebook. And we are usually paying attention to stuff going on there too.
Everything's under the Wilder Ride, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. Thanks, guys, for being part of our show. We're going to come back tomorrow to wrap up the week on Friday with minute number 25, where we're going to start with Lepetomane, and we're going to end with especially the funeral. So we're going to find out what continues on in the governor's office. But to do that, you're going to have to come back here for this, the Wilder Ride.
Well, Alan, if all goes well, you can be like Washington, Jefferson, Pete the retailer, Alex.
Oh, hold on. I got to bang my head against the wall. Oh, did you say that? Was that you?
It was me, actually.
Oh my God. He said it. It must be going to happen. It's going to be real. I'm going to sell the house. I'm moving.
Yeah. Well, I think your wife may have just put a sign in the yard.
Yeah. Well, she moved my shit out a long time ago. I'm just
a wise lady. Okay, I'm recording.
Thank you, Walt, for being able to record. We appreciate all that technology you're making yourself acquainted with.
Yeah, this is some highfalutin shit here. I'm in the tall grass.
Oh, my God. Oh, I'm leaving that for an outtake.
Oh, great. Yeah, I didn't think about that.